What's good, guys? CJ here, and welcome back to another DNA video. Now, today we're going to be taking a look at the official and final 1.0 tier list for all the characters. Now, we're going to be ranking them based on several things: where they currently are in the meta, and what they bring to the table, how well they perform in most of the game modes, be it, farming, theater, maze, chase, so forth and so on, and in comparison to other units, right? So while there are units that are going to be really good, I'm going to say specifically why they don't rank as high as others. Now, we haven't even started already, and we already have people in the chat with a little stand in their coochie, because according to some of them, there's only 4 good characters in the game and everybody else is trash. That's why they're all in trash, because pretty much every character is trash in the game, right? With that said, though, ladies and gentlemen, remember, this is my opinion. I could be wrong. I'm probably not, but I could be. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's start things off. We have the tiers of meta, top tier, great, okay, need buffs, and trash, okay? Simple as that. Very, very basic. We're going to kick things off with Psyche. And I got to be honest, I think Psyche is an absolutely insane unit. She is a meta character through and through. She's one of the best units in the game. I think she provides a ton for the game. She's incredibly strong. She's going to be able to deal insane damage, and she doesn't really need that much investment, if we're being serious, if you want to get her rolling. When you get her at I1 will already carry you through insane amounts of content. You'll be able to clear all of theater. You'll be able to clear pretty much everything. She's that good. She's incredibly goated for almost every single game mode in the game. She's going to be able to deliver you from the very beginning of you getting her all the way to endgame. Currently, you're able to clear pretty much everything with her. And if you decide to fully invest into her, she's going to be able to carry you through tower, even when she's off element, quite deep into it, because she deals a lot of damage. The more you invest, the higher damage she deals, and even though she is a constant weapon unit, she still stands as one of the current best characters in the game quite easily, okay? Now, up next we have Tabitha, and this character is a top tier unit. Tabitha is very good, one of the top support units in the game. She's going to be very good for buffing skill damage. She's going to be able to help out your teams pretty damn well. When you pair her up with her weapon or even a ranged weapon, she's going to provide quite a lot. And her weapon that specifically can be put on hydro characters is incredibly good. So I do think Tabitha is a top tier unit. I'm not putting her quite in meta, because I do think there are other characters that kind of do go on meta. And just keep in mind, we're going by absolutely the best of the best, right? The ones that you're pretty much going to have every single time in almost every single team. Up next, we have Sibyl, and I gotta be honest, Sibyl needs some buffs. She needs some quality of life. She needs some loving. Sibyl is a character that has a kit that, on paper, looks really good, and ideally is pretty good, but it just doesn't work that well, right? I feel that she needs some tweaks, whether it's her modifiers or the way some of her abilities work, but the fact that she's an HP scaling unit, and we don't really have a lot of usage for those in the game right now, I do think that she needs some loving. She definitely needs some loving, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to put her in needs buffs. There's not much else to be said about Sibyl outside of that, okay? Now, we have Lady Nifle, and let's just be real. We all know Lady Nifle is a meta unit. Everybody and their mama is using Lady Nifle. What's so great about Lady Nifle is that once you fully invest into her, you're going to be able to deal damage at all sorts of ranges. Up close, mid-range, long range, halfway across the map, all the way across the map, because her interactions with weapons is pretty damn good. You're not really dealing the damage with the weapon, but through the weapon with her kit, and that makes her really good. On top of the fact that she does deal Lumino and Umbro damage, so you're going to be able to deal pretty good damage, clearing literally 2 different types of theater, maybe not being the very best at each individual type, but still dealing a lot of damage and being able to clear deep as hell in theater modes of 2 different elements, which makes her super good. And she also is very independent. You don't necessarily rely on some other characters to be out here giving you buffs or specific things to finish out your kit to deal damage. She's just flat out a very solid character. Up next, we have Daphne. And Daphne is going to go in great. The reason I'm putting her on great is because I know someone out there is going to say, well, actually, I seen a video of a guy melting bosses with a Daphne. Yes, you could do that. But I'm gonna be honest, Daphne's a support, even though y'all seen her on some Rambo shit with the Gatling gun, destroying bosses. She's a support through and through. And you're not really going to advise a player that's just getting into the game, asking what character is going to carry them dealing damage, to build Daphne. If you want Daphne to be out here like Rambo with the Gatling gun, you need very, 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 very high investment for her to be out here doing that, in comparison to the investment you would need on a character like Psyche or Lady Nifle to deal that type of damage. And as a support, she is very good, but there are other supports in the game that sometimes, more often than not, get picked more over Daphne. The fact she's still a great unit is still there. You can still pair her up with a ton of characters, and she'll be very, very good. And as you guys seen, Rambo Daphne is real. She can indeed hurt you. So, hey, if you like her big old titties when you put on that Christmas outfit, by all means, you can go ahead and build her. The next character is Randy. Randy Savage goes in needs buffs. Yeah, he's just one of those characters. Once again, he's just scaling in a way that we don't really use right now. We don't need characters that are tanky, beefy. We don't need that. And the way that his modifiers work are kind of weird. Once again, I don't think he's a DPS at all. Some people think that he should be doing damage like a DPS. He's more so of a support. I feel that if they improve his supporting capabilities, he would be a much better character, right? He doesn't need to deal damage, but he needs to be a better supporting unit for whatever you're going to pair him up with, right? From here, we're going on to Rhythm. And I gotta be honest, Rhythm is a meta character. Not only is Rhythm very good for bursting down bosses, her traversal is pretty good, but she's also arguably one of the best characters in the game for farming. She is the strongest, laziest AFK farming unit in the game. You can just stand there menacingly and pretty much destroy everything without really having to do much once you really build her. And you don't need much investment. I believe it's I1 or I2 where she really becomes a solid unit where you can just use her to farm without a problem. And her bossing capabilities are also really good. So if you notice, we have a Lumino, a Nemo, and Electro unit in here. So we're trying to give you guys, you know, one of each type in its own category. Now we have Margie, and I gotta be honest, Margie is kind of okay. I feel like Margie kind of fell off really damn hard. She is good, and she does provide good support, but the reality of it is that she got power crept by a gun. Like, her whole usability got power crept by a gun. And when your whole usability gets power crept by one gun, not even a character, I might even put her on needs buffs because, but she's at least usable. If you like Margie and you want to have some buffs in your squad, give you a little bit more damage to your main DPS, you could use her. She's not horrible. She's definitely not at the point of these characters where they're just absolutely just not used unless you like their design. But she got power crept by a gun. That's the reality of Margie, you know. Now we're moving on to Hellfire, everybody's favorite Dommy Mommy, right? And she needs some buffs. Hellfire is one of the coolest units in the game. Honestly, one of the most popular characters design-wise in the game. So many people started playing this game because of Hellfire and her heavies. But the problem with Hellfire is the same as the other units in the need buffs category. And that's the fact that we don't really have a need for tanky, beefy units, right? On top of that, I feel like Hellfire, more than the others, has so much potential because her kit is actually cool, is really, really fun. But sometimes I feel that it kind of works against each other. She taunts and aggroes enemies but pushes them away from her. She's just a little clunky. I feel that with some slight tweaking to her kit, she could actually be really good. And she's one of those units that just wishes could be better, right? A lot of people wish she could be better. She doesn't need to be in the meta, but she could definitely be a great unit if they do some tweakings to her kit. Now we got Yale and Oliver. And I'm going to be honest, Yale and Oliver is a very interesting character. I think that he's a slept-on unit. I'm going to put him in okay, right? And hear me out, guys. I think that Yale and Oliver is a character that can deal good damage, but he doesn't have the range or he doesn't have the viability as some other top picks for this particular roster. And then on top of that, there's another, you know, Pyro character that I feel is just better, has more range, and it's easier to get rather than, you know, Yale and Oliver, because you got to get him from the weeklies. And he does deal some good damage. I've seen videos of Yale and Oliver are out here dealing some good-ass damage, you know, with the bombs out here, you know, Bomberman dealing good damage, but I still don't feel he's that good. He's more of an active character. I wouldn't say that he's as bad as Margie. I wouldn't say that, so I'll probably put him at the top. of the okay. I could even put him at the bottom of great because he's a good character, but I don't think he's that good, right? That's my only gripe with him. I don't think he needs buffs or anything. I just think that his kit is very specific and he doesn't cover that much range, and that's one thing that some of the characters in here have. They deal great damage, have long range capabilities like Psyche and Nifle, or they're able to do a lot of things simply by just existing there and standing there menacingly. Now we have Barenica. I think Barenica needs some buffs, but she's not as bad as the need buffs units. I think that if you pair her up with one of our latest characters, I think she's decent at best. I could put her at needs buffs because Barenica, being the staple child of the game, right? The one that's in the literal cover of the game, falls off as a DPS. Let's be real. She does fall off as a DPS. She's not as useless as these characters here, so she can deal damage. You can clear bosses with Barenica and Fina when you put them together in like 20, 30, 40 seconds. You can still clear them pretty damn solid with obviously a lot of investment, which is a lot slower than some of the other units. But she's not as bad as the bottom 3 units. I will say she could be anywhere between needs buffs, because I do think that she do need buffs. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. But she's also an okay unit, right? Like, she's alright. We're gonna leave Margie over here, because Margie got cooked, bro. Now we have Outsider. And Outsider, honestly, Outsider's an okay unit. Outsider now with Fina is able to blitz bosses, bro. I've seen people blitz bosses with Fina Outsider in literally seconds, bro. Like 20 seconds, 15 seconds, blitzing down bosses with Fina and Outsider. But I think that speaks more about Outsider than, or about Fina than it does about Outsider, right? Because before that, Outsider was taking a little bit longer to blitz said bosses. So I'm going to leave him at okay. You could say that characters like Yale and Oliver, Barenica, and even Outsider need buffs to be as good as these other ones, but I don't think they do because, like I said, if I were to count Outsider paired up with Fina, I would probably put him at great quite easily. I do think Outsider is a great character, but it relies heavily on Fina. The same with Barenica. If you take Fina outside of the equation for Outsider and Barenica, they are okay units. If you add in Fina, they go to great. And that's because of Fina. Heavy towards Fina, right? Now we have the MC. And I think the MC is a pretty great character. You get MC for free. You get them early. You're going to be able to get some dupes for them. And I think that MC is going to be able to fit into multiple teams. I don't think they're like amazing, but I do think that you can fit them into multiple teams. And they're going to be great for your account. You know, I don't think they're as great as the top tier characters or the meta units, but I also don't think they fit in the same place as the okay characters, because the okay characters, you can use them sometimes if you like them and that's it. But I feel that MC actually has, you know, places that he can be put in, trigger probability buffing, you know, weapon damage buffing, and overall I think he's pretty damn smooth. So I do think that he does go in the great tier. Now we have Fina. What do I need to say? She is a meta unit, the best supporting character in the game. It doesn't matter if you use weapons to deal damage, consonant weapons. It doesn't matter if you're dealing damage with your toes. You're going to be putting Fina on your team and your damage will go up. Her and her weapon are absolutely insane. Her weapon alone, power crept an entire character. That's all you should know. Her weapon alone power crept the entire usability of a unit in the game. That's not even counting her kit. That's not counting her introns. That's not counting everything. She is a very strong character. When you pair her up with units like Psyche, she's going to be out here demolishing content. When you pair her up with, like I said, even these characters down here that are in the okay tier, you could even put them in top tier when you pair them with Fina, because she makes them that freaking good. She races them up like 2 tiers. She is an insane character, bro. Absolutely one of the best units in the game. Now we have Lisbel. And I'm gonna be honest, Lisbel is a great character. Now, Lisbel often gets overlooked because of characters like Lady Nifle, another Lumino character. But the reality of it is that Lisbel can deal insane amounts of damage. I'm gonna be honest with you. Lisbel can deal insane amounts of damage. The problem, or not the problem, what really differentiates her from a character like Lady Nifle, Psyche, for example, is the fact that she doesn't have the range that these other characters have, right? Or the AoE. While she can deal damage in a relatively big area right in front of her, she can deal damage halfway across the map. Whereas Lady Nifle, Psyche, even Rhythm have insane AoE areas, right? And some of the other characters that are going to be talked about, they have insane AoE areas. So that's why I practically put them up there as opposed to Lisbel. I don't put Lisbel at top tier because I'm specifically saving top tier for units that I personally think are in almost every team, right? In this case scenario, you would have Tabitha on almost every team if you didn't want to build, you know, let's say, Truffle and Filbert, but they're usually going to be on one or two of your teams, and you could have them there. But when it comes to Lisbel, seeing as she's a DPS, you have all these other options that you would put over her for your main DPS roster. That's not to say she can deal big damage. She can probably deal damage similar to the likes of Lady Nifle, Psyche, and them, but in a smaller area. So in the grand scheme of things, when there's 100 enemies and things like that, she'll probably deal less damage, but she can still drop some heavy nukes. Now we have Truffle and Filbert. And I'm going to be honest, Truffle and Filbert can go in meta because every single person is pretty much rocking Truffle and Filbert. But I'm going to put them in top tier. One, because Fina as a support is an absolute cracked character. And I think that she's the staple meta unit on almost every team. And Truffle and Filbert's AI is a pain in the ass. Sometimes they'll buff you, sometimes they won't, sometimes they heal you, sometimes they won't. They're kind of annoying. On top of that, the freaking pig will yeet enemies halfway across the map. Outside of that, if we just account for the fact that her AI works perfectly, she is a meta unit, okay? So I just want to clarify that for people. She's either a meta unit because of that, but I like to put her on top tier because her AI be pissing me off. And sometimes I actually prefer to bring Tabitha simply because her AI pisses me off, but she is one of the meta supporters. These two are the two meta supporting units in the game. So honestly, you could put them anywhere. I'm going to leave her at top tier for now. And at the end of the tier list, we'll see if we put them at meta. But like I said, she is the meta supporting. Her AIs was really annoying and holding her back. But outside of that, she is a meta unit. Fantasio, easy, great unit, very good unit. What's holding him back, honestly, weakly character, that's kind of a problem. And also the fact that some of the Umbro wedges aren't the greatest. They could be better, but still, he's a very good unit. But once again, he lacks the range that these units have to deal damage. And yes, you do have the laser beam that he shoots out when he jumps up into the air, but the laser beam can deal massive AoE damage at long range. You're going to be dealing damage in front of the beam and whatever the beam hits, and that's it. Other than that, you're going to be slashing and gashing right in front of you. He won't be able to cover a massive area, but seeing as he is the best Umbro character in the game, you could put him in top tier because he is a very good character. He deals insane amounts of damage, straight up. But being in great is not a bad thing, once again, guys. This is 2 tiers down. This doesn't mean they're bad. These are also amazing units, right? But that is the thing for Fantasio. And I know some of y'all must say, well, Rhythm is in the weeklies as well. So why would you put her up there and then Fantasio at the bottom? The thing is, Rhythm becomes the best at what she does from the weeklies, right? She becomes the best AFK farming character in the game. Fantasio doesn't become the best DPS character in the game. So that's why he's at great and he's not at meta, okay? But we could do some changes, right? Which we might do at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Now we have Rebecca. Now, Rebecca for me is a meta character. You're either going to be using Rebecca or you're going to be using Rhythm for your farming, one of the two. Most people will be using Rebecca because you get her early on in the game. She's easy to use. She works as an AI companion. She pretty much does what you need her to do, and everybody's going to have her. And one character that you can never go wrong investing into, right? There's too many things that you want to do when you start off the game. So going into it right away and trying to get I2 Rhythm for AFK farming might not be the best ideal decision. Whereas investing into Rebecca, even with I2, she'll carry you in farming in anything, in any content, as far as you want with just I2 with Rebecca. So that's why she's meta. Everybody can use her. You'll never be down bad because you invested into this character for your farming, necessities. And she's just that good. She's neck to neck with Rhythm. Rhythm, I think, is better as an AFK farming character because if you build her right, you just hit her skill and stand there menacingly, and then that's it. That's all you got to do. Whereas I think Rebecca is better at like excavation, where you got to put, you know, her jellyfish in multiple spread out locations. She can do that. As an AI companion, I also think Rebecca's pretty nice, because she's just easy to control when you have a character like Sibyl and you're always going to be dropping the jellyfish. So both of these characters for farming are going to be pretty damn good. Okay, now our last character is Lynn. And Lynn is a meta character. Now, I know you guys haven't seen as much Lynn usage lately, and that's honestly because a lot of people are using Psyche or Lady Nifle. They're just that good. They hit like trucks. They destroy everything. But Lynn is an absolutely amazing unit. She deals insane amounts of damage. She can clear an entire room by just standing there and break dancing. You twist your camera around and she'll be able to break everything without any problem whatsoever. In tower, she'll be able to push high-ass floors without any problem. And once again, it's one of those things where the reason that I rank all these units in meta is because I feel that they're some of the best at what they do. When it comes to these characters right here, these 3 DPSs, they're going to be able to do insane amounts of damage to bosses, right? They're going to be able to deal insane amounts of damage all the way across the room. They're going to be able to clear entire rooms without much effort from where they're at. There could be an enemy halfway across the map and they'll be able to hit them, which is really good, right? And they're the best in their respective elements because of that reason as main DPS. Fina is here because she's just the best supporting character in the game. And then we have these two as the 2 best farming characters in the game. When it comes to the top tier category, I do think these are the 2 top tier supporters. Fina's not, bro, Fina's just everything, bro. She can support every single type of unit in the game. You can AFK farm with Fina. I've had people in my chat come and try to fight me about Fina being the best farming character in the game, when in reality it's Rebecca and Rhythm, right? These 2 are better than Fina. Fina's still really good. Fina's amazing, but the fact you can use her as an AFK farming damage dealing unit as a supporter, her gun power crept an entire unit. That's all it needs to say. And these 2, just your AFK farming, you know, loot gathering units. Top tier, these 2 buffers, and once again we can make a case that she goes up here as pretty much the meta healing supporter in the game right now. Literally everybody has her on their team, so she is meta. Let's just be real. If I was to change things around a little bit as we get deeper into the game, into the tier list, she is absolutely a meta character. Everybody is using her. Sometimes her AI does piss me off and I want to bring Tabitha instead because I'm like, where are my buffs? But outside of that, she is the meta support alongside Fina. Now, from here, if we're going to move something from the grade up to top tier, I would move up Fantasio, because I do think Fantasio is really, really good. I think he deals insane amounts of damage. Even at I0, this dude is able to deal insane amounts of damage, right? He doesn't need heavy investment to be able to do that. Even with +0 wedges, you're going to be able to clear like all floors of tower up to like 12, 15, something like that, with obviously when he's on buffing stance. But other than that, I think he's a great unit. What else could I move from here? You could arguably move these 2 up to top tier. You could even move Lisbel up to top tier, because Lisbel is a top tier unit. But once again, I feel that I'll give Fantasio the edge and put him in top tier simply because he is the strongest Umbro DPS in the game. I think he is really good. He deals insane amount of damage and he's able to wave clear. And the difference between Fantasio and maybe Barenica, which Barenica could deal a lot of damage, is that for Barenica to be able to deal that much damage, you want her with Fina, which we already know is absolutely busted. Whereas Fantasio, you put him by himself, you could slot Fantasio with literally anybody of the other supports. You could put him with Tabitha. You could put her with Truffle and Filbert. You could put him with Fina. You could put her with whatever. And you're going to be dealing some very good damage with this character. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be the final 1.0 tier list. This is what I think is the current meta for the game. The characters that I believe are going to be doing the most in their respective categories. I gave y'all my personal takes. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, where I messed up, where I fumbled. I know somebody's going to come out here and be like, no, the reality of it is that Randy's #1. But that's going to be it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate y'all. Hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.